You are listening to the Fashion Toolbox podcast with Laura Fish, providing you with all the tools to succeed in this dog-eat-dog industry. Get ready to see a side of the industry that you have never seen before, with real-life insights into what fashion is really like. Join me as I take you on a journey throughout my career in the industry, with a host of special guests, learning secrets of the trade to help you to find your dream career and meet your maximum potential. Hi everyone and welcome back. On today's show I am delighted to introduce to you Michelle Nevshehir. Michelle is a buyer and product developer specialising in menswear with 15 years of experience under her belt. Her interests are in sustainability, commerciality and product, and she prides herself on having a keen eye for detail, including the latest trends and customer requirements. Michelle began her career as a buyer's admin for Dorothy Perkins, where she began in women's wear before moving into menswear in 2007. She has worked her way up over the years from admin to junior, all the way up to brand manager. She uprooted her career from the UK to progress her career in Australia in 2014, where she worked for Target Australia and Myer. She had planned a well-deserved travel break, where her intentions were to expand her global knowledge of the world by witnessing it firsthand. But unfortunately this was cut short by the COVID pandemic. Instead, she has returned home to the UK and has been studying to plan for the sustainable future of fashion which lies ahead of us all. Michelle's determination and passion for her areas of expertise in buying and product development make her a wonderful guest to share her experience and advice with you all. Thank you, Michelle, for joining me today on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you.
No problem. When did you first become interested in fashion?
So I think an interest in fashion has been with me forever. I definitely remember as a young girl raiding my mum's wardrobe, wearing her tops as dresses, and my poor sister was used as a bit of a fashion model when I used to take my mum's tights and make creations out of them, and lovely little one pieces for my sister. And then when I was at school, I was very much into art and fashion, textiles, but also I was really good at business studies and economics as well. So I didn't really know how to mix those two together. So when I went to the Clothes Show Live, I just used to love watching the clothes show on a Saturday afternoon. And there used to be, back in those times, a clothes show live at the NEC. And they had university stands. And then you could go to the university stand. I knew I wanted to go to university. And there was these leaflets to say, you like this, this and this. This is the course and this is the job, which was fashion buying. And I just read that and knew that that was the direction that I wanted to go into. So a few things, really. But I think it's always been with me.
I think it's really interesting that you came across fashion so early, because so far, like the people that I've spoke to have not really stumbled across it that young. And I think that if you're creative, you've always got that art kind of mindset and you're driven towards it, but fashion was never there so early for me. So yeah, I just find it really interesting. And what made you go to the clothes show?
I think at that time it was just something I used to watch on TV. So it was called the Clothes Show Live, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I think I actually joined. I did my textiles GCSE just to be able to go to the Clothes Show Live as well, because that was part of a trip that you went to if you did your GCSE in textiles. So it's a trip to the NEC to go to the Clothes Show Live.
That's really lucky at GCSE level. I wish I had that. Can you tell me about how you came to working in the industry?
So I think it's obviously from a young, I was 14 when I saw that university stand and knew that that was for me. So I always kind of worked towards a career in fashion. So it started with my university degree. And also, as soon as I grew up in quite a small village, so there wasn't really access to clothes stores to work in as a Saturday girl or things like that. So as soon as I got to university, I took a part-time job working in River Island in a store while I was a student, so getting work experience in stores. And then, when I finished university, the reason I chose my university degree is because it had year work placement and also a 6-month exchange program with New York with the Fashion Institute of Technology. And I just knew, even being a 17, 18-year-old girl, that having that type of experience would set me up in my career for the future. So I'd already, when I finished university, had a year work placement with Marks and Spencer's. So then after I finished university, I was looking for that next role to be a buyer. So I just applied to lots of different companies. Luckily had the choice between the Arcadia Group and Tesco's actually at the time, and I chose the Arcadia Group and started as a buyer's admin there.
Wow. It just sounds like you've been so focused on what you wanted to do from being so young.
I don't quite know what else I would do, really.
So this kind of, you've already answered it, but what field did you want to get into from the outset?
I've always wanted to be a fashion buyer, and I think from the age of 14, but I think if I hadn't done that, I think the next one was always an art teacher, so a teacher of some sorts. And I think that is always within me, that kind of wanted to teach people, especially in my last role in fashion, is that I really helped to develop the junior members of the team and set up a buying academy within the company that I was working in to try and help promote and develop buyers within the business. So I think that wanting to be an art teacher is kind of still in there somewhere. Wanting to teach people and kind of help the industry in that way.
Mm-hmm. I have that same passion, as you probably gathered. So I think that definitely the more experience that you gain through your career, the more successful that you'll be as a teacher, won't you? So it's never harmful to just keep moving up that ladder.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think it's just so fascinating that with you again, just a completely different case that you chose that so young, and you've carried through in that buying role all the way through your career, which is just I have just done so many different routes to get to what I want to do, but I guess.
And there isn't a right or a wrong route. There isn't, there isn't. And some people, can stay in a business for all their career as well. And I've had different experiences in different sized businesses and took different opportunities when it was right to take them. Yeah, then there's not a right or a wrong to any of that. So just whatever path you're following.
So how did you get into your latest role and what you're doing at the moment?
Okay, so my latest role was in Maya, which is a department store in Australia, and probably easier to tell you how I got to Australia is probably from the UK. I was a senior buyer in tailoring for House of Fraser, and my husband got offered a role in Australia, and then also at the same time Target in Australia were looking for UK buyers specifically to come and help turn around their fortunes in their stores. So myself and my husband moved out to Australia with not knowing anyone, but wanting the opportunity at one point to work abroad. We kind of told our families that we would be there for 2 years. And 5.5 years later, we've moved back to the UK in the middle of a pandemic, but not ideal. But I had 2 roles in Australia, one at Target, and then the second role was at Maya, which I loved, and that was the most similar, probably because it's the most similar to House of Fraser, which I had worked at in the UK. So that's what took me to Australia. Still loved the UK, but wanted to have a chance to work in another country.
That must have given you a really diverse skill set going and doing buying in another country.
Well, you think so, but I think it was exactly the same job, just in another country. So I'm not sure if it changed necessarily my skill set, but maybe that kind of readiness to move and try something new. Definitely took me out of bit of a comfort zone for, living in London for, at that time, I've been in London for, over 14 years, with a great friendship set and working for a great company to, do that change is probably a skill set in myself that I learned. But, the job was pretty similar.
Yeah.
But maybe working with different people because customers are different.
Yeah.
A new customer set was
it's been receptive to change, isn't it? And open-minded.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So, speaking on skills, what skills would you say are paramount to your role in the industry?
Well, I think that definitely organisation. I think definitely as a buyer, one thing I love about it is that not every day is the same. So you've got to be organised, and there's definitely curveballs that can come different times of the day, different days. So I said organisation, so teamwork. There isn't an I definitely in the buying team or product development team. You have to work strongly with designers, you've got to work with merchandisers and lots of different people around the business. And lots of times, I think I found, especially in Australia, because the teams were a lot smaller than what I was used to in the UK. And people just wanted, they thought that you had all the answers, you had to answer everything for everyone. So I think it's, being able to multitask and work with lots of different characters, I'd say, was the main skills.
Yeah, and would you say that you learnt those skills within your education or within industry mostly?
A mixture. I think university and degrees the degree I did in fashion definitely set me up for team working. You have to do lots of projects together, and at the time you think, well, what do I need this for? But actually, all those project work is exactly what you need when you're in a team. And then I think as you get older as well, I think, when you're at university, you're still in your late teens, early 20s. I think as you get older, there's even more different characters and managers and things like that to kind of work with and develop your skills in that way. When you're at university, you don't really have lots of you're not dealing with managers, or you're not a manager yourself. And I think that's something that you do learn more on the job.
Yeah, there's just so many different types of people that it's hard to know, and hard to think how to react to situations as well without causing friction or problems. It's that's definitely one of the hardest things in working in industry, is knowing how to deal with people.
The job's usually fairly straightforward.
So what was the most useful thing that you learned at university that's helped you in your career so far?
I think, one which I've taken everywhere I've been for the last 20 years is we did a module on CV writing, and even though my experience has grown, that way of writing my CV hasn't really changed or kind of put that across. So I was really grateful for that module. I was also really grateful for the course setup, and that was a year and a half at university, a year work placement, and then a 6-month exchange program with the Fashion Institute of Technology, and then a year back at university. And I think that diverseness was really good. And I just think for the people in the future looking to do a degree, I think really look at ones that have an opportunity to work in companies, and the universities will support you in that, because some of the people that I met as a year work placement, I still see now. One has been my mentor nearly my whole career, and two were actually ended up in the same company in Australia, which is bizarre. But, those people are still people that you see in the industry. So, that kind of support from the universities to have that work experience, and having the work experience was really invaluable.
I couldn't agree more with that. Our university offered the same. We got to do a year out in industry, and that the most experience and the most skills that I'd learned in the whole course, I would say. It was just...
same. I would say the same.
And like you said, those contacts as well. I'm still in touch with all the people from that placement. It's definitely an experience not to be missed.
No. Probably one more was Learning to use a Wizzy, which is a merchant, because the degree I did was fashion merchandise management. So it was a mixture of merchandising and buying. It was actually set up to find merchandisers at the time, because they knew people wanted to go into either buying or design, but there wasn't a lot of people very trained in merchandising in the 2000s. So the university degree was set up to find future merchandisers. So to have that skill set as a buyer and learn that from an early age was really useful as well, has been useful.
Could you explain to anybody that might not know what a Wizzy is?
Oh, yes. I mean, I don't know what it stands for. It's basically how you monitor stock in a business. So it monitors your sales, your stock, and it's just something. It's basically a merchandiser's Bible, and that's what they work on all the time. That's kind of their job, is managing a Wizzy, because that helps them see their sales and their plans and where their stock is. So it's basically a big Excel spreadsheet that monitors all of that.
So what does your job entail in an average working day?
In an average working day, I would say the beginning of the day is always asking my team how they are, always checking in on everyone, and then really planning the day. I'd probably it depends what day it is. Normally, if it was a Monday, it'd be all about sales and reactions to trade, and then an average day after that would be emails, and really fitting emails around meetings, and the emails would entail questions from suppliers. Could be things like in my last company, we were very much working with VM to make sure all our ideas were also into stores. We were doing education for stores as well, so we used to do videos monthly for stores to educate them on what was coming into stores that month. Fits. So with our garment techs, twice a week, making sure all the product was coming in was to fit and to spec and look at approvals. So lots of different things thrown into the day. Maybe I just gave you a week or half a week.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear how many cross collaboration through the departments there is. With I think that's probably part of the product development role, and maybe a buyer as well, is that you're crossing over with like garment tech and overseeing all the fittings, and you have to be really heavily involved in those, don't you, as part of your role? So yeah, it's really interesting to hear that. In your opinion, what would you say makes a successful product developer / buyer?
I would say good eye for detail. You need to be able to translate the trends, the future trends for your customer, what's appropriate for your customer, but also making sure that the approvals and colours are correct. And I just think a level of creativity, and that doesn't mean necessarily that you're the designer or you can draw the most amazing picture, but that you're creative in the way that you're thinking. So is thinking for the future, but also creatively thinking about problems. I'm sure there's a lot of buyers at the moment, with reaction to COVID-19, trying to think creatively about how they can stop production or work with their suppliers to try and rephase production, change of season, how to manage things like that. So there's a lot of creative thinking, and it's not just all about kind of art and the range specifically. It can be creative thinking in the way that you're going to trade the business.
Yeah, it's like being reactive, isn't it, to whatever comes your way, and being ready to problem solve. It's definitely a key part of the role, I would say.
Exactly.
So we've kind of touched on this, but how important is it to cross collaborate with other departments in your role, and who would you work with most closely?
Oh, so important. I just don't think you can get the job done without collaborating with people. And I'd say two main people, were the main people I would worked with. One is my merchandiser. And I think, if you've got a great relationship, a great relationship with your merchandiser and your designer, that is in the best team that you can have as a buyer, because the designer will help bring both of your ideas to light. And then on the planning side, on the merchandising side, that they're managing the options, they're managing the money, and if you can work collaboratively with that team, then that's great as well, because you'll get the best results. Because you can think you've got the best range ever, but if you can't sell that and work with your planner to plan it in the right way, then it's not going to be as successful either. So those two people, I'd say, were my big team.
And what software do you use regularly as part of your role?
So I'm still an Excel girl. So I use that a lot. But there were some programs that were just coming into play, whereas I was leaving, were more planning. So as a buyer, you wouldn't necessarily work on those, but you would work with your planner who were putting the options in and starting to look at trends and how to manage stock better. So they're more planning than necessarily on the buying front.
How do you see sustainability impacting your role in the future?
Well, I think it has to be at the forefront. I'm actually not working at the moment after arriving from Australia, and I've been spending the last 4 months on as many sustainability courses as I can, and I think that's because I think the last few years, especially, I just think we can make a difference in that world of sustainability. I've definitely been a culprit of when speaking to suppliers and factories, asking for that 10 pence cheaper and not asking questions of what that actually means. And I think that and then the last few years, I have been asking the right questions. And you find out that factories can actually give you better initiative cotton, for example, at very little extra price, because they can get hold of it, they can do it. So I think it's really the responsibility of all buyers to, if your company's not doing it, to educate yourself, and so you can help be that positive solution in sustainability, because our resources will run out one day, and I think that we have to do something about it. Sustainability isn't, it's resources, but it's also how we treat people, and I think that we need to be looking at that more, and I think that if I was learning now, I would definitely be asking universities to be teaching you about that. It isn't something that was taught really 16 years ago or 20 to 16 years ago. So that's a gap that I feel I have at the moment in my learning and my development. But as a buyer, I think it's my responsibility to know how to ask the right questions. So I'm educating myself. And I think there's quite a lot of retailers out there that the course that I did, they offer that to the H&M group, they offer it to ASOS. There's a lot of retailers already sending their employees on these type of courses, which is fantastic. But I think if you're not currently at somewhere that's doing that, either I would be asking about it. I've sent the course on to my previous employers, because I think that is something that's useful for buyers to learn and be on movement.
Yeah, I think it's great that you've taken that initiative to upskill yourself, because I do think it's something that's really important in our industry, is that things are forever changing, aren't they? And we've got to keep up with it. We've got no choice.
Well, that's the thing. I think, especially as a product developer and a buyer, you are, by nature, you're looking at what the future is and what the future trends are. And I just think that people want that in the future. Whoever, we're going to be making clothes for the younger generation, and they're going to ask why. They'll be the ones making the decision if they want to buy product that is sustainable or isn't sustainable. And I think they'll be wanting things that are sustainable. So I just feel like that's a journey that all retailers and industry needs to go on, and are starting to, but it all needs to happen a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So I think that's just, I think it's an important education piece for all of us who are in this industry.
Do you think that COVID might spur this on a little bit faster? Do you think that people are starting to realise, and companies?
I hope so. I feel like I've listened to so many webinars the last 4 months, and it does feel like they're is a change in the air, and I think that I'm hoping that's because people have just actually had to stop. I think in our industry, definitely as I felt as a buyer and product developer, you are so busy all the time, working mostly long hours and just trying to get through the day to day. And I don't think, as I said, not asking the right questions. Sometimes that could be because I was just trying to get my job done, just trying to get it done in China or India or in Bangladesh, and you're set with a margin target without even, and then having time to pause and time to think, how do I want to do this differently? I think I'm hoping that that's given everybody time to think about that.
Yes, me too. Can all hope for that for the future. What is your favourite part of your role?
I just love, there's quite a lot, but probably I love seeing the finished item. I love seeing people wearing it. There's nothing better than seeing someone walking down the street wearing a shirt or a T-shirt that you've kind of developed and put out there. I actually really love when you, at the end of the season, you should do like a best and worst. And I love that. I love looking at like what worked, what didn't, and then what were all the learnings from there, and taking that on further. But how trying to better yourself every year. I really kind of like that drive, and just love the teams. I love like knowing a customer and kind of thinking about like what they would want, and then working as a team to deliver that. And I love it when, like you develop someone in your team and they become, they're moving through their career and then they enjoy it as much as you do. Yeah, loads. Loads of things.
That's very positive. What is the most challenging part of your role?
I think the most challenging can be people at times. I think just managing different personalities, different agendas, different styles of management. I think that's been a challenge at times, and maybe workloads at times. That's been a bit of a challenge, but you always get through it. You think, oh, I've only got so much time to put a range together or till sign-offs, but you always get it done.
Yeah, there's very tight deadlines. I think no matter what role you do in the industry, those deadlines are so tight and we all get so stressed, but it is so worth it in the end.
Definitely.
Absolutely. What is one key piece of advice that you would give to someone who wants to get into this role in the industry?
Well, I'm actually going to borrow this from someone who said it to me. Well, actually said it to a group of people, and her name is Barbara Hukalinki, and I'm sorry if I haven't said that properly, but she was the founder of Bieber, and someone asked her that exact question, and she said, get a mop, and then once you are amazing at sweeping that floor, then you'll move up through the ranks. And I think that was the most amazing thing that she ever said, or someone said to me, and I still think about it now. And I just think, just start somewhere. It's either, I think it's quite difficult now to get into a buying role without a university degree or a college that supports fashion. But I would say try, reach out, find somewhere you could do work experience. I actually got my first work experience at the age of 16. My mum's best friend was a cleaner, and she was cleaning for a lady, and she was talking about how I wanted to work in fashion. And she happened to mention that her daughter was a fashion editor of a magazine and gave my mum's friend her number. So I just called this number and ended up working for a week in a fashion magazine, which was really interesting. But I knew doing that wasn't quite what I wanted to do for my future career. But just having those experiences and getting into an office, I think I was 16 and a half, 17, was just good. It's good experience. So all experience is good experience. I also think you can't really say you want to work in fashion if you haven't worked in a store. So, making sure that you have kind of, go and work at your local whatever store as soon as you can. And then, look at universities or colleges that will take you on the journey, really. That's what I'd say.
I agree with that. I think that you need to see both sides almost of the industry, the retail and the supplier side, to understand. And yeah, I learned so much when I worked in retail. So I've never actually thought about it until you said it, but that actually probably gave me a really good understanding to go to university and understand even more, like the more manufacturer side of things. So yeah, and I absolutely love that quote. It's brilliant.
I do.
I think I will keep that.
Yeah, she was brilliant, and I just thought you're exactly right, because even though you could dream as a 14-year-old girl that you want to be a fashion buyer and want to get there as quickly as possible, you wouldn't be the most successful one you can be if you don't have the skills behind you. And a lot of the skills you obviously learn a lot at university, but even when you finish university, you don't know all of it, and the rest of it takes time. And it is only time; it's just time and experience. But that all that time and experience adds up to something, definitely.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's all the questions.
Thank you. They were easy enough. Hope they were clear.
Yes, they were. So thank you again for coming on the podcast, Michelle, and sharing all your experiences and your insights. I think it's just really, really good advice that you've given, and a really great insight into what it's like. So anybody that wants to join the industry into that role will just have really good knowledge.
Oh, great. Thank you. Well, anything I can do to help.
Thanks for listening to the Fashion Toolbox podcast. Make sure to subscribe so that you'll never miss out on the future episodes.